welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Hi guys, welcome back to a very special D3D4 Football Podcast. You join us on our 100th episode. And I was saying to Luke, I can't quite believe we've reached this stage, but we have. And we've enjoyed producing them for you all the way through from the start to finish. It's gone very quickly, I suppose, is what I'd say. Just really enjoy it. And the fact that you guys have stuck with us, listened to us, enjoyed our podcast over the last few years and helped it grow. Really appreciate that. Really do, because it's a lot of work, but your comments, your feedback, and the fact that you'll take the time out of your day to have a listen to what we've got to say about League 1 and 2 makes it all worthwhile. So thank you for that. Hope you continue to do so for the next 100 episodes. Let's hope that Oldham are not on their 25th manager in as many episodes. Yeah, that stage.
We were joking, it'll be D3, D4, D5, D6 by that point to make sure we can cover Oldham still.
Yeah. Well, let's hope not. I mean, it was a good win yesterday. We'll talk about Dino Maamria joining the club, but it was an interesting Friday night, let's say, when all the news started to break. But the football gods were smiling on us. All our teams won yesterday. I mean, I say won. Boy, did we win. Absolutely brilliant result at Lincoln. But yeah, delighted for it. Obviously, patrons, new ones have joined this week. Really appreciate you guys signing up and becoming supporting members of the D3D4 team. Rune Rasanga, AJ Machado and Andy Cox have all pledged to be patrons of D3D4 Football this season. So thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. You can join up too for only as little as 80p a month. The link is on our website. You'll find it in most news articles and stuff that we produce as well. So if you're going to have a look at that and fancy joining and helping support what we're doing, we really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's jump in to yesterday's action in League 1. League 1. And guys, let's start with, before we get onto the scoreline and the game, Lincoln City obviously losing the Cowley brothers to Huddersfield. And the talk was about Mike Flynn and Gareth Ainsworth going there, and those were the leading candidates. And I actually thought, these guys are going to get it. But it didn't turn out that way. A sort of late change of plan, whether it was because they couldn't get a deal struck with the other two, I don't know. But Michael Appleton's name started to surface. And this is a man who I know very well. What a 3 years he put in at Oxford, changing our fortunes from a side struggling in League 2 to a side on the cusp of the playoffs in League 1, plus 2 EFL trophy finals as well. Some great recruitment. I think it's an absolutely fantastic appointment for Lincoln City. And Luke, I would be interested to hear your thoughts on this, because obviously massive transition going to take place now at Lincoln after some solid years under the Cowleys. But if you're going to replace them, Appleton is a brilliant choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the job in the Football League that I think a lot of young upcoming managers would have really been like, for example, Flynn, and obviously the sort of progress that Ainsworth has made. But I think Appleton, for me, was like you said, is an absolutely fantastic choice for them. When they obviously weren't able to get the other two as well, and that's not just saying that we couldn't get those two, we'll get Appleton. Obviously, I'm sure he would have been a top choice there as well. And as you say, he did brilliantly at Oxford, and he's had a bit of experience in all the divisions, and also had a short spell at West Brom as well, sort of working as his caretaker there. So, he's a brilliant manager, and he's a man-mountain of a bloke as well. I mean, if there's anyone that would, apart from the result yesterday, kind of epitomise what Lincoln are about, it'd be kind of him and his sort of stature as a person. But the one thing I think was key with, the Cowleys going is keeping that identity. I know Chris mentioned it before the podcast, but the thing is now is Lincoln may not be the same team they were under the Cowleys, but it's all about Appleton stamping his own sort of way onto them, because at the moment they seem a little bit lost. They're really struggling for form at the moment, and especially after a result like that yesterday, they need picking up, and I think it's going to take some time for him. They may be required a little bit of patience with him there, because he's got to get his own style sort of built into that team now, because obviously Lincoln know nothing but success, and I think they're going to struggle for a few weeks. But I think in the long run, it's going to be a really good appointment if they stick with him.
Yeah, he's a great manager. He has great recruitment. I mean, he did it for Oxford time and time again and plays lovely football. So he's got people like George Grant and Jackie Payne who can play the kind of football he wants. In fact, I think Lincoln have got a lot of good players that can play better. They were just far too open yesterday. A 6-0 defeat. Tariq Fosu, what a performance he put in. He's turned out to be a really good signing. The ex-Reading Youth Academy product. Obviously played with Carl Robinson at Charlton. But yesterday it was superb. That third goal, it defied physics how it sort of hit the back of the net. Brilliant stuff from Fosu. But his awareness and his pace as well for the first two goals was both superb. Lincoln looked so open, though, that every time Oxford came forward, we looked like scoring. And the fact that Jamie Mackey scored some sort of dinked finish, I mean, absolutely superb. And if you're wondering why I'm croaky, I'm afraid I do have a cold. My kids have gone back to school, so it's inevitable that they come back with snot all over them, just to give it to me. So it's very kind of them. Who would change it, though, eh? But I thought, for being an Oxford fan, it's natural to think, oh, we've got a 2-goal lead, oh, we've got a 3-goal lead, we'll concede, it'll all go downhill, they'll get back in the game. But no, we saw it out. Rob Dickey was excellent. Our whole team throughout were excellent, to be fair. Off day for Lincoln is an understatement, though. I've seen them play several times last few weeks, and this was by far the worst performance. They didn't have anything going forward. They had one half chance really, which was missed. Akinde came on, didn't really have an impact. It was a sort of abject, listless performance from them, and one which defensively they looked so solid for much of last season and the early part of this campaign. They certainly did not yesterday. We were all over them. They looked ponderous, and I think Appleton will come in and he'll take a bit of time, like Luke says. But what an appointment that is! He's a superb man. Like you say, great stature in the game, but very intelligent, a good tactician. He's been obviously coaching players of a far better quality than he will at this level. And yet, he can really impose what he wants on a team. It took him a while at Oxford. We finished, I think, 13th in his first season in charge, and there was a lot of murmurings in the crowd whether he should be there or not. But he soon turned it round, and I think when he brought in the kind of players that he'd wanted, I mean, just to put into perspective, Kamar Roof was one of his signings. I mean, what a signing he was for Oxford. So Lincoln fans can expect, I think, some good things coming over the horizon. I'm not sure I'd say the same about Sunderland fans. They drew 1-1 with Bolton. Now, there's absolutely nothing, I have to say, as an Oxford fan, shameful of drawing with Bolton. No, they're a great team. But I have to say, that it's the fact that it's finished 1-1. It's their 19th 1-1 draw in the league since the start of last season. 19.
And it was a last-minute penalty.
Yeah. It wasn't a great performance, really, was it? I just don't know what to say about Sunderland anymore, because I mean, it's league table. They're 5th in the table. They're not. They've only lost once this season, but clearly the fans are fed up. Clearly they're
Ross out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying he's going to get sacked in the morning. I mean, people listen to this know that I always defend Jack Ross. I always defend managers because I don't like seeing managers get sacked. And if you were to sack a manager of a team who are 5th, and bearing in mind, Sunderland got a game in hand over Wycombe, for example. But it would seem harsh. But if the Sunderland fans are going week in, week out, spending their cash on watching this, and they're watching what they consider to be, in sort of frank terms, dross, then they have a right to, I suppose, express their displeasure. I would say, looking at Jack Ross's record, he deserves a bit more time, perhaps. But Chris, I don't know. You talk to a lot of Sunderland fans. What's your take on this?
Well, I've been the same. I've always been keen to defend Ross because I think he's been building something, but I'm struggling to defend him anymore. I don't think the quality of football is what needs to be coming from Sunderland. I think you could forgive last season having a little bit of a teething issue, but they're spending a lot of money on transfers and they're not providing the quality of performances they need to get out of this league, which ultimately Sunderland fans expected to go up last season and they didn't. And this season they started in a manner that doesn't suggest they're going to change that around anytime soon. I was chatting to Richard, a Sunderland fan, yesterday. He was saying it was just awful. The quality of football was terrible, and they're coming up against the Bolton side. All right, they made a lot of signings on deadline day, but they've not got great quality in that side, and someone of the on-paper quality of Sunderland should be walking that game, and they weren't. So I'm not sure how much more time you can give Ross if Sunderland are serious about going up this season.
It's difficult. It's a really difficult dilemma for the owners because, of course, they're looking at this like, well, we're 3 points off the automatics, and we're going to sack a manager for that. I mean, they're in that rock and hard place because, of course, if they sack him and things get worse, it looks like a really bad decision. But then the second things get better, will they get better? That's the thing.
And the local reporters are now starting to turn a bit against Ross. I think they've been quite kind to him in the past, and now it's sort of really a case of, there's one here that was saying it was papering over the cracks. Absolutely abject performance, and the away fans have turned on the manager. And they've got a new owner coming in.
You going to say something, Luke?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think, what you're saying is spot on, but I think any other club in this division, where they are now and the start they've made, wouldn't be considered poor at all. And I think the thing with Sunderland is that weight of expectation that makes it it's almost a poison chalice for a manager, really, in league for Sunderland in League One, because they won their first 3 games, and yet their 1-1 draw record is astonishing over the last couple of seasons. But to be 5th and to only have been beaten once, any other team would be looking at that and thinking really strong start to the season. But it's that weight of expectation at Sunderland. It really is their expectation to get promoted and to do it sort of emphatically, automatically, not to go into the playoffs, to go up in, as part of that sort of, top 2. I just think it is a poison chalice. And I do feel for Jack Ross because, as you say, there's been times where, they've been doing really well, but they are struggling at the moment, to get over the line, to turn those draws into wins. But it is a real tough job to have in League One. There are a lot of teams that have come down, teams like Wigan, etc., and now even Ipswich, who are at the top. If Ipswich don't go up this season, will we be talking about this, for Paul Lambert next season if they're sat 5th, for example? Because of the size of the club, that for me is the difference here. Any other club, we'd be talking about, pretty solid start to the season, but it's because it's Sunderland that we're having this conversation, in my opinion.
But don't you think the money that Sunderland have spent, say Ipswich haven't spent the capital that Sunderland have?
No, absolutely, of course they haven't. But again, Sunderland have had this money. I mean, when they come down, there was a talk of the sort of parachute payment they got, haven't they? And I totally understand that. But what's the expectation for them? Is it to absolutely, gazump the division, finish 15 points ahead because of the amount of money they spend? It's a bit, I don't know.
I always think money is a little bit of a, yes, it makes a huge difference, but it doesn't guarantee anything. We've seen some really expensively assembled sides play utter crap, to be honest.
Not County last season.
Yeah, I mean they had a massive budget and they were awful. I mean, I think it's more the style and the way they're playing. Yeah. I think if Sunderland fans were playing really well and they were in this position, the fans would be fine. Yes, you do draw some games, but I think it's the fact that they sort of scraped to 1-1 at Ipswich. They scraped to 1-1 against Bolton yesterday. And they've not looked like a side that could gazump the division, despite the fact they've got a good squad. I mean, Will Grigg's performance yesterday sort of, I think, summed up Sunderland. I think he looked lost. He looked, I think, for a striker of his quality, hugely lacking in confidence.
That's one of the huge things that I struggle with Ross, is that how can you not get a player like Grigg playing well?
In this division, yeah.
In this division.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few other players, though, you could argue the same in that team. You'd expect to see a bit more from. But it will be what it will be. We'll have to see what the owners think. I mean, it could be the fact that new ownership wants to bring in their own guy, and you've got, there's managers available. I mean, Parky would be a great choice, and we'll talk about him in a minute, because he is linked to Mansfield, of course, Phil Parkinson, a man who... I love the guy. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Player, coach, mentality, character and everything. And I think anyone who has him would be very, very fortunate. So that's one name out there. I mean, obviously Appleton, I think, would have done well at Sunderland. I think that job would have been perfect for him, but he's now at Lincoln, so that one's off the table. But we'll see, because Jack Ross still in a job and may well remain that way. But certainly... some fans getting irate with the way they're playing, and not only Sunderland fans getting irate, because Portsmouth fans are very much anti-Jackett right now. They lost 1-0 to Wycombe. Now let's give Wycombe some juice because everyone will go on about Portsmouth, but Wycombe are a very good team this season. You know, they're not third in the table because they play awful stuff and they eke out 1-0 wins. They've played some excellent football this campaign. They've got a smaller budget than pretty much everyone, I'd say, in the top 7. I don't know what Fleetwood's budget is, but I would imagine Wycombe's is less. So they deserve massive credit for how they've played. And again, you know, against the Portsmouth side full of quality, they at times rode their luck at home, but they got the 1-0 win. Solid defensive performance. But Portsmouth, guys, I don't know. I mean, they're 20th in the table. It looks awful, doesn't it? You know, it looks really, really bad at this moment in time. They've lost 3 games. They've only won 1. 7 games into the season. They do have a couple of games in hand, and it is, yes, still early days. But for the quality they've got in their squad, you'd argue that they should be doing a lot better. But Kenny Jackett is no fool. He's a good coach. He's a good manager, and he's got an excellent record at this level. I don't know what you think, Luke, but I would just hesitate to get rid of him at this stage.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, as much as their start has shocked, everyone, he is, with his experience at this level, and I think I wouldn't be jumping the gun on that one. But again, Portsmouth are another one of those sides now that have built up that expectation. Now they've solidified themselves in League One. They've been up there for the last couple of seasons. The expectation is playoffs at a minimum, really. And, already, despite the fact they've got a couple of games in hand, 3 on some teams in the league, including, the Wycombe, the team they lost to yesterday, that there's a lot of points to make up in that time. I think, you kind of got to assess it, give it another sort of 5-6 games and see where they are then. And if they're still where they are now, or certainly down there, then you're probably looking at thinking maybe think about another manager. But yeah, it has been a real shock. I mean, a couple of draws, you were there thinking, especially the home games, you'd expect them to get through. But yeah, it has been a real surprise for me, given the quality in their squad and the players they brought in. Yes, they lost players in the transfer window, such as Jamal Lowe, but and players like Ronan Curtis haven't quite fired yet. I think he's had the most shots in the division, but still haven't quite got going yet. But Ellis Harrison, tough game for him yesterday, but and John, you got John Marcus there as well. The quality in that team is should be enough to absolutely fire the team out of the division. But their goals for, I think they've only scored 10 this season.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong. They've scored 9, which is absolutely shocking considering the sort of players they've got in their squad. So they really need to start firing, really.
Yeah, and I think if you look as well, their XG this season compared to other teams around them, it's lower half of the table. It's bottom 6, 8, something like that. So
they're having a lot of shots though. They're 5th in the table for shots per game.
Yeah, but what it suggests is the quality of shots.
Yeah,
it's not great, and that's a concern, I have to say. I mean, I think Wycombe lead the XG table. I have to double check that, but I know Portsmouth not doing so well. And if you look, that's something that they'll want to rectify. I mean, obviously they do have quality up front. They do have quality players in their side, but it's interesting to think that fans would. I mean, who? Off the top of your head, guys, and you have one each here, name a manager you think could come in there and have an immediate impact to turn it around. So, Chris, is there someone that you can think of that they could get in?
I mean, Parkinson's the one you link with all these jobs at the moment, but as you say, he's a fantastic manager, and I think he's got the stature to run a big club like Portsmouth.
And Luke?
Well, yeah, but I know because he's available, he's the obvious choice. But I know the fact he didn't go to Lincoln. But for me, someone like Ainsworth would, for me, take this club to the next level. But again, you can't see that happening purely because if he didn't go for the Lincoln job, which would have been the perfect sort of next step for him, you can't see that. But for me, he'd be the sort of guy to do it.
We'll have to wait and see. Again, though, obviously he may well be given some more time. Something that I think he probably should be, but they need to.
There's a Frenchman available.
Yes. Benede at Portsmouth. That'd be very successful, I'm sure. Other results, and a very impressive one here for Doncaster. 2-0 win over Peterborough. They've continued to be a very impressive force this season under Darren Moore. Only lost the one game, and that came in midweek. And, I think slightly under the radar, Doncaster, because they'd lost, like we say, like John Marquis, Downing wasn't there anymore, Malik Wilkes wasn't there anymore, so they lost some key players. But they've just, I mean, Sandy has really stepped up. James Coppinger has, been given that responsibility and taken it with aplomb of being the key man, and he loves it. He's clearly still a superb player. So they've got an excellent record, and Peterborough as well. To keep Peterborough out takes some doing. They've had an excellent record this season in terms of goals scored. 20 goals scored in the division. I think it's the most in League One this season, and they couldn't find the net yesterday against Doncaster. So both these sides, I think, will be reasonably okay with the starts they've had to the season. I think Peterborough will hope to be maybe a little bit better, but they've had some decent form. That's their first defeat in the last 5 games or so. Doncaster, though, fans should be really happy. Their performances have been very, very solid. And I have to say I was a bit worried about them defensively because, obviously, losing a few key players. But they've looked very, very good. And
some great goals, quality in the goals.
I'm really impressed with Sadlier. I mean, if he doesn't get international call-up this season, I'd be very, very surprised because, I think, regardless of the fact he's in League One, he's clearly confident and in form, and it will do him the world of good. And I think he'd be an asset to Ireland. So I hope he does. I hope he does get that opportunity to go and get an international cap. If I don't think he has already. I think I'm right in saying he hasn't yet got one, but he certainly deserves one based on his performances so far this season. Fleetwood, the other side, going strong. They beat Rochdale, which much better performance from Rochdale. They had an aberration last week when we talked about them with the 6-0 defeat or 6-1 defeat. And Fleetwood, Fleetwood left it late, but there again, Chris, you called this pre-season. They look good. They did some decent recruitment. A pretty stable team as well. Not wholesale changes under a manager that seems to be more than finding his feet, and that's an excellent start to the campaign for them.
Yeah, it's every week we comment on just how good Fleetwood look. As you say, they kept a settled squad and brought in real characters to bolster them. The one I always focus on is Peter Clark because I love that man.
Rossiter though as well.
But yeah, Rossiter, someone I was excited to see join Bury last season. He looks again superb at a higher level with Fleetwood, and even a player that could potentially have spent this season in the Championship, dare I say. So it's great to see Fleetwood doing well, and as you say, Barton running a very, very good system there. He's playing nice football. It's effective. They've lost one in their last 5, and that was against Lincoln, which is not really anything to be too concerned with. So it's exciting times for them, I think.
I agree. I really do. I think they were superb in the last few games that I've seen them play. Their fullbacks, Danny Andrew, obviously excellent for Doncaster last season, and Louis Coyle looked very, very assured. That gives them great width options. Rossiter, Dempsey, of course, ex-Carlisle in midfield, and he's been superb again this season. But up front, Wes Burns, I mean, he's a player that when I had time, I used to always sign on Football Manager and let him just score me loads of goals and make loads of assists. He's such a good winger. They're kind of playing a 4-3-3 at the moment as well, with Morris on the other side and Ched Evans leading the line, and it's working perfect bargains for them. They're doing so well, and I'd like to see them continue because I think they're. I mean, as long as they don't do it against Oxford, and I wish they would play Pugwash music because it kind of just brings them down a little bit, in my opinion. But they're going great guns, and it's an interesting top 4 because we'll come to the team that finished top. Obviously, no game for Coventry this weekend, but you've got Ipswich top, Coventry second, and then Wickham and Fleetwood ahead of the likes of Sunderland and Portsmouth, Blackpool. There are other sides sneaking into those playoffs as it stands. But Ipswich did it again, another win. James Nord obviously not involved because I think he was on the bench, but he obviously was injured or got a knock, and there was a lot of panic, I think, from a few Ipswich fans I saw online. Some reactions were quite amusing about losing their star striker. But no, another solid defensive performance. A 1-0 win over Gillingham, who are looking a bit better actually. I saw some of their game against Bristol Rovers in midweek, and his name escapes me, but in that game against Bristol Rovers, they brought on a right back because Barry Fuller went off injured, and this kid looked really good for his age. I'll have to find out his name in a minute and let you know. But Chris, Ipswich, Paul Lambert has to take massive credit for getting a team that had such a woeful season and turning them around so quickly, and they've done brilliantly.
Yeah, superb. They've done they're not struggling to find their feet in the league. They've seamlessly fit into it. I think what they've done is they've recruited sensibly instead of just splashing ridiculous cash. And they're going to sides, they're treating them with respect, and they're coming away duly victorious every week. And it's great to see. They're a joy to watch at the moment.
Great crowd travelled to Gillingham to watch this. What I would say as well, Kane Vincent-Young. Obviously, I knew he was gonna be going to better things. I'd spoken to Colchester assistant manager, and he was always saying that at some stage he was going to go because he was that good. But they basically, he was a left wing back at Colchester. They're employing him as a right wing back, right winger, and he's flying. He's absolutely doing superb. I mean, it just shows how good this kid is and the versatility of the man, because he's coming in off the right hand side, very dangerous coming in onto his left foot, but he can play multiple positions. So that's a huge asset for a team like Ipswich who don't have massive squad depth. They've got players that can play in several positions, and they were so unlucky not to get that goal. It's Tucker, the guy's name for Gillingham's Tucker. Yeah. Jack Tucker, yeah. So keep an eye on him, because I thought he looked really good. And actually, Gillingham, despite the fact they didn't score yesterday, their XG stats are looking pretty solid. So it suggests that there's a lot better to come from the Chills over the coming weeks, coming season. A defeat to Ipswich, though, I don't think fans of Gillingham will be too worried about that, because they're up against a team with some championship quality there, and they more than held their own. So
5 clean sheets in a row as well for Ipswich. That's absolutely fantastic, considering most of those were away.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, they're doing really well. I mean, they may well run away with the division. They may win it, but it's a bit early. It's a bit early to.
Yeah, you've just screwed them there, James.
Yeah, there we go. Rotherham and Shrewsbury played out a 0-0 draw. Massive credit to Shrewsbury's defensive setup in this one. They were so loose against Southend midweek. I mean, they made some really strange decisions defensively, despite them beating the Shrimpers, whose defence was even worse. And you will believe that, because they've been terrible this season. But no, Shrewsbury went to Rotherham, a side that, I think have been fairly solid. Not pulled up any trees so far this season, but look like a very solid outfit. Ian Bradley's match report, go and give that a read, because he's always unbiased as a Millers fan. I think that's very impressive, because it's very hard to be like that sometimes. And yeah, he just said Shrewsbury defended really well, didn't come out of their shells too much, and Rotherham ran out of ideas. But that's an excellent point on the road for the Shrews, and I think they've had a solid start. And Jason, I was calling him Chris Cummings. I think there's another player called Chris Cummings. But Jason Cummings, what a signing he appears to be. I think he'll be a bit of a game changer for the Shrews this season. I wouldn't be at all surprised, based on what I've seen of him so far, to see him bag 15, maybe more goals this season.
Shrewd signing.
He's a shrewd signing. He is indeed.
Apologies to everyone listening there.
One team that do need some better players, I think, is Wimbledon. They lost 3-1. Great finish by the Finnish player Force, but in the end, it was Bristol Rovers who were a force to be reckoned with, as we continue the bad puns. And Johnson Clark-Harris...
Oh, that was awful.
It's terrible. Johnson Clark-Harris, though, he has scored more goals in 2019 than any other player. 18 now. And it's not, to be fair, he's a good player, but Luke, I think you'd agree with us, we didn't really see him becoming this star striker in the way that he has for Bristol Rovers.
No, absolutely. And I think before he even went to Rovers, there's a couple of League Two clubs that were looking at him, and his level is clearly far and above that. The thing that he gives you is he gives you so much. He's quick. He can play as a target man. He's fantastic in the air, and he's got that quality to score a bicycle kick like he did a couple of weeks ago. He just an all-round quality player, and I don't think he's quite had a break at his former clubs. I know he had a bit of a spell with Coventry where he looked good. Rotherham didn't really kind of get going there, but he's always had that quality, and he's found his sort of his sort of place now at Bristol Rovers, and he's an absolutely massive asset for them. And as you say, he was absolutely fantastic yesterday. And they're a side that I think over the last few years they haven't really been massive in terms of finding the back of the net, Bristol Rovers, but they are so much better with him in the team. And I think he started this season. I think he made his comeback against Cheltenham actually when I was there at the Mem. Just getting back back to fitness. But, Tom Nichols is not really going to be the scorer for them. Tyler Smith has been a good signing for them, but he really does make them tick. And without him, and I don't want to take it away because they're playing really well at the moment. They're winning. They've obviously won I think 2 of their last 3, so they're looking really good. And I don't want to take that away from them. But Clark Harris makes them tick, and without him, they're a sort of a lower League One team for me. But they really push on and could perhaps contend with him in their side. He's that important to them.
Yeah, it's funny. You get one player in sides who can, like, Norwood for Tranmere last year, like, who can really make a massive, massive difference. I think in midfield as well, they've got a nice mix in midfield with Sercombe, Upson and Ogogo, all sort of offering fairly different qualities, but together they are quite formidable. And I think a lot of sides will struggle when they face Bristol Rovers this season. This isn't a mistake. You're about to hear something that happened yesterday that is true. Southend United won a game of football.
Oh yes, I am dreaming.
No, they did. I thought there was some sort of smudge on my computer screen, but it's definitely a 1, and there's definitely a 0 in the MK Dons box. So well done to them. Henrik Larsson watched the game, linked with a move there. That'd be an interesting appointment, to say the least. I mean, he's a cracking player. Obviously, Feyenoord, Celtic, Barcelona, to name but a few of his teams he played for. He has managed as well. Mostly back in his native Sweden, but I don't know. I mean, Adam Barrett's linked with the job, ex-player, knows the club well. Would you go for Henrik Larsson, Chris? I mean, we don't really know much about him as a coach, but obviously, clearly, as a man, he's got a huge reputation.
Well, why not? He's played with some of the best players in the world and under some of the better managers in the world. He's managed, I think, 4 or 5 different clubs in Sweden. So he's got a little bit of experience, but he does know English football. And it's the effects that we didn't quite see at Oldham in terms of on the pitch, but the response of the players in training sessions to having Paul Scholes around was excellent. And I think having someone of that stature in a club can produce a real feel-good factor, especially if...
Sol Campbell, Macclesfield.
Sol Campbell at Macclesfield, absolutely. So why not? He's got a bit of managerial experience. He might just provide that little bit of technical expertise that could be the difference between relegation and a mid-table finish for Southend.
Very interesting appointment if he does. Well, one, he's going to get interviewed. 2, whether he wants to take it after what he's seen and what he makes of it. I think he'd be quite hungry to have a go and see where he can take a team like Southend, because that was a good result yesterday. It's mostly like, you look at them, they will score goals because they've got Humphreys in that team, they've got Cox in that team, but they can't defend. They got a clean sheet yesterday. Again, you're not hearing wrong. They kept a clean sheet. I mean, fantastic for them to get a result at MK. Very, very important result. MK, I don't think they've drawn a game this season, actually, interestingly, but they will be a bit disappointed with that. No, I don't. Yeah, I looked.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean,
4 wins, 5 losses.
Yeah. I think that you say it's a solid start for MK. They just need to find some consistency, I think. But Paul Tisdale will be pleased, I think, with how they've come out of the blocks and started this division. But yeah, just didn't create enough chances yesterday. And Oxley, I think, for Southend was really good. So he is a pretty good keeper. Accrington and Blackpool played out a 1-1 draw. Great to see the Crown Ground absolutely full. All that colour on the Quest highlights I saw. All the Blackpool fans. And again, Accrington probably should have won that one. The chances they created, they should have been out of sight before letting Blackpool back in the game. So again, disappointing result for John Coleman's side. But they're playing good football. Really, really uphill battle for a side like Accrington in League One. But I wouldn't put it past them to turn it around. Blackpool are 6th because they're a solid side, and that was they'll take that point every day of the week when you perform like that and you come away with something that's pretty solid from them. And Tranmere beat Burton 2-1. And Chris, Ollie Banks, good, not a good player in League One, is he?
Well, yeah, it was after I said that, then you see the goal he scored on Tuesday night, and then he scored again yesterday, and it's just, that serves me right for opening my mouth. But he showed it last season in League 2. He hadn't yet shown it in League 1 until this week, but clearly he listens to our podcast, and clearly my harsh words have spurred him on, because that was obviously my intention.
Oh yeah, Yeah, he's your biggest fan. I mean, a massive result for Tranmere though, because they have been struggling. And when you're not playing particularly well, or you're not getting the rub of the green, you need some results. And beating Burton, who are by no means a poor side, that's a very good win for Tranmere and Mickey Mellon, who at this level last time with Salop he struggled, so he's probably got a little bit to prove about his management at this level. But he's done a superb job with Tranmere since being there, and they'll be delighted to get those 3 points, because it's very tough when you go on a run without wins to turn it around. So big result for Tranmere. At the moment, I will have a quick look at the table, because we've pretty much reached the 9-10 game mark. Ipswich top, Coventry second, Wickham, Fleetwood, Sunderland, Blackpool, the early playoff teams, sat in 3rd to 6th respectively. Then Doncaster and Bristol Rovers, like Luke just said, could contend. Johnson Clark-Harris pushing them up to 8th with some of his superb performances and really good effort there. Peterborough in 9th, Lincoln 10th. And Oxford in the top half. Yeah! Thanks to that wonderful performance. And I would actually be fairly happy with the top half finish this season. At the bottom, a very strange division, only 23 teams, but Bolton on -9 points. And then Wimbledon and Southend make up the bottom 3. Portsmouth in 20th is probably the big shock when you look at the teams down at that level. And they'll need to improve quickly if Kenny Jackett is to stay as their boss. Right. Loads of stuff happened in League 2 yesterday, so let's dive in there and have a look now. League 2. And Exeter City still not lost a game, Luke. Wonderful season they're having.
Yeah, absolutely. And a place to go as well, to the fortress that is Rodney Parade, and to pick up another point. Really is, shows great character. Really impressed with Exeter this season. I had a little chat as I was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and how the whole team is really sort of contributing, they sort of march on. Lots of good things going on down at St James's Park. Top obviously, as you say, top of the table. I think they're top of the form table as well. There's not really much, and I think Matt Taylor was it confirmed which League One club?
Well, I think it was Lincoln. I'm pretty sure it was Lincoln who went for him, and
Devon Live said Lincoln, because I wrote a little news piece on that, and on Facebook there were a few people going, well, they've not said what team it is.
No, come on, it's not Southend.
It's not Southend.
It's not. Who else is it going to be? It's Lincoln City wanted him, and he decided, I think, looking at what he's building there, the fact he's got all his backroom team there, and he knows, he's still fairly new to management, only had a season. I think he's very, very happy with how things are working out. So
there's a good thing happening there, and to risk going to Lincoln, where there's very, very big boots to fill. Yeah, you've got, why leave Exeter? He's happy.
He's happy. It's a lovely place to live as well, in terms of just from a human point of view. if you're living in Devon, Lincoln's nice as well, don't get me wrong, but he's settled there. He's got everything going well. He's building something. I think he's made a decision for himself that will end up being the right one in the long term. I think if he gets them promoted, and there's no guarantee at this stage that that's how it'll finish, but he's certainly got a team capable of doing it. He'd take a lot of credit, and that'd be a great little tick on his CV if he can get a team like Exeter into League One, because they don't have huge budgets, but he's building with good young players, good recruitment, and a mix of senior pros. It's a solid team, and they've lost some key players as well. Christy Pym left, Jaden Stockley is gone, and to lose key men.
Who needs them?
Yeah, exactly. Who needs them? Story left, didn't they? Jordan Moore Taylor. These are key men who have all gone since he's been there, and yet they're sitting top of the table after 10 games in 2019-20. So brilliant job he's doing, and long may it continue. And long may it continue for Crewe as well, because I have to admit I've got a soft spot for a team that plays football like Brazil, and they really do. They play superb football, and at times they get themselves in trouble, by doing it. They did it at Newport this season where they lost 1-0. They had such stupid amount of possession in the second half, but didn't make it count. They sometimes do have a lot of the ball and not do much with it, in terms of creating clear-cut opportunities. But there are scouts now taking notice of these young players because they're fantastic. Lowry, NG, Kirk, Charlie Kirk. I always call him Harry, but it's Charlie Kirk. And they've got players right across the team, and then they've got that subtle, solid spine of like more senior guys, Eddie Nolan and Paul Green, who obviously suspended yesterday because of his red card. He's got another game out as well. So Jones came into midfield, James Jones, and at 1-0 down, you're thinking, oh, is it going to be one of those days for them? But no, they came back with some superb football. Lowry took his goal brilliantly, and Chris Porter on the score sheet again. I mean, it's great to see, and I hope it continues in that vein, because I like David Artell. He's a manager that they've kept with. I think he took a while for the fans to warm to him. I think sometimes people were questioning the work he's doing, but I've always looked upon what he's been up to there with sort of being quite impressed with it in a quiet sense, because he doesn't get much accolades. He's not one of these big characters who played at the top level. He's a League 2, League 1 centre back who's turning a team into a really good unit who play attractive football. So brilliant stuff from them. Port Vale and Mansfield, right? Mansfield. we talk about crazy stats, right? They have scored either 2 or 0 in every single game they played this season. I kid you not. It's weird. I can't believe it. I mean, let me just if I get their results up and we go through them. This is an actual real thing here. They have scored. Right, so the first game of the season they scored 2. Then they scored 2 in the second game. Then in the third game. Then in the fourth game. Then in the fifth game they scored none. Sixth game they scored none. Scored 2 in the next one. None in the next one. None in the next one. And then 2 yesterday as well. It's like... And of course they've had a splattering of red cards in there just to keep the fans entertained. Yet
4 red cards.
Yeah.
Most aggressive side in the league.
One of them I think was... Sweeney's was rescinded, wasn't it? But ridiculous. And again, yesterday... I've been asked by Port Vale fans, what do I think of that penalty? I thought it was a...
Stonewall.
It was a penalty, wasn't it? I mean, I've looked at it. I mean, yes, Leon Legg, rather than doing a shoulder charge, he's such a strong guy. He just uses his chest to bounce Danny Rose into next week. I mean, it was a foul, and I think it probably, if you look back at it, I can't see how it's not going to be given. But again, character from Port Vale, and Nathan Smith, he's second time he scored a goal, late goal for Vale, so becoming a bit of a hero. And again, another understated young centre back who's done really well at this level, Nathan Smith. He's a terrific player, I think. And Port Vale, pretty solid start to the season. Now Mansfield, guys, what do we think? John Dempster, obviously earmarked, I think, for a while as a potential man to take the club forward. He's been there 8 years. He's built a successful youth side while he's been there from scratch. Clearly, they played really well yesterday. They deserve to win based upon the football I've seen and from a few of the reports. Carl, who's a Mansfield fan, always gives me an excellent scouting report from matches. And he was saying that they were unlucky, and that's probably the best they've played this season. Yet they sit 19th. They've only won 2 games, and again, they've let 2 points fall away from them yesterday. So it's a very difficult situation. Do you think they should stick or twist? Or if there is realistic chance, Luke, of them getting Parkinson or Chris Coleman, another man mentioned with the Mansfield job, would you go for one of those guys?
It is a real difficult one when you've got someone who has obviously, served the club so well and has earned his chance, as Dempster has. But the problem with Mansfield is, and this isn't my opinion shining through, this is what I think sort of would happen at Mansfield, is they are probably the Sunderland of League 2 in terms of, budget and expectation. And they find themselves in this kind of a similar position to what Portsmouth are in. And when there's the opportunity perhaps to get in an experienced manager, I think it won't be long unless he starts winning matches. I mean winning them. Getting the next, 2 or 3 matches winning, they're going to start thinking of getting someone in, because, I mean, we saw Flitcroft leave, even though they reached the playoff semi-finals, that there is a massive expectation at Mansfield Town. And despite his sort of standing at the club, and I think it's great that he's been given his chance, it was a much better performance yesterday. The red card absolutely destroyed them against Cambridge midweek when they got...
Well, they were all over Cambridge until that stage as well.
Exactly. it completely changed the tide of the game. But then again, you've still got to look and think at times this season they've struggled to hold on to a lead when they have got into it. They're far from the finished article. And if you think of sort of the history and the sort of expectation at Mansfield, you would expect them to appoint a new manager unless they seriously start winning matches now.
There's also reports that his backroom team have started to leave the club, and that he's earmarked to go back to youth coach with the imminent appointment of either Coleman or Parkinson. According to Carl, that's what the rumour is. So
that interests me though, because you've got someone there then that clearly wants the manager's position, but with a new manager in, and I can't see any new manager being particularly comfortable with that.
Well, I don't know. I think it'd be harsh to get rid of him and his association with the club though, after he's brought through some really good young players. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
But does it undermine the future manager's position?
Well, no, because he doesn't have any interaction with first team training or anything like that, does he? He becomes back to his youth setup, I suppose. I don't know. I don't think many managers would be too threatened. I mean, they'll come in and they'll be given their chance, and they'll start building their team and getting this group of players. I mean, it's a talented group. He has had huge injury problems, Dempster. But yeah, a great assist, by the way, for Tom Pope on his 500th appearance. Brilliant stuff from him. Great to see a player of his stature get to that many appearances and then set up a goal. Brilliant. Really good stuff. Right, Northampton Crawley. We've been asked about a penalty in this one as well, funny enough. And I have to say, this looked like the strangest penalty I've ever seen. On my notes here, I've got Crawley pen, ! WTF. That's what I've got written down on my notes for this one. As in, how is that a penalty? Chris, I'll go with you first.
Am I correct in saying this is the one where the striker goes through, falls over, takes out the defender, and the referee gives a penalty?
Yeah, it looks, but from what I've watched, it looks like the defender clears the ball, and then the striker trips him up afterwards. That's what it looks like.
That's how. If it's the one I'm thinking of, that's how I saw it, and I was wetting myself laughing watching it, to be honest.
It looks like a Stonewall foul against the defender, doesn't it?
It's utterly bizarre.
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it could be the angle we're seeing it at. Maybe the ball was pushed away by the foot of the attacking player and then got kicked afterwards. But to me, it looks clearly like the defender clears the ball and then he's taken out afterwards. But regardless, Northampton and Crawley played out a 2-2 draw. Entertaining game. Crawley showed huge character, which we know they've got this season to come back. Northampton have been on a good run and are starting to look like the team that, with the players that they've got and the resources they've got, that they should probably be. It's 3 games now without defeat, 3 wins in the last 5, and just eking now towards those playoff places early as it is. They've got Morecambe away next, and Morecambe will come to look really, really like a worrying side this season. I mean, we know they're poor. Generally they struggle, but this season they have done. Colchester, they picked up a 2-1 win in what is considered a bit of a local derby against Leyton Orient. 1,655 Orient fans crammed into the Colchester away, and to see, unfortunately for them, another defeat. They're not playing badly, Leyton Orient, but they really are not. They're getting in the lead in games and not seeing it out. When they do take the lead, they tend to give away silly penalties or soft goals. Defensively, again yesterday, despite Colchester really being generous and giving them a way back into the game, very kind of Dean Gherkin to do that. I don't know if everyone's not seen it, have a watch of the highlights. It's one of the best goals you'll see all season for just sheer comedy value.
If we still did Gaff of the Week, if we're talking 100 podcasts, when we used to do Gaff of the Week, this would have taken the mantra straight away.
Oh yeah, it was that good. But it gave them a way back in the game. They kind of would feel they deserved to get something from it, the performance they put in. But interestingly, Colchester have started to play better with a sort of a change of personnel. They've put some of their more senior players on the bench, and they're bringing in some of these youngsters. Quaime Poku is a guy you should really keep an eye on. Very exciting young winger. I believe he played it might have been at Palace or someone like that. He came through an academy there but didn't get picked up and ended up coming. And he looks a really bright prospect. Theo Robinson, obviously, gives them something else, a bit of pace up front as well, which perhaps Norwich doesn't. But they've got some great options, and they're starting to slowly climb the table. Some impressive results of late. So Colchester fans, looks like they've got plenty to be happy about. Grimsby Town played Macclesfield. These two sides will be sick of the sight of each other. A 1-0 win. Great goal by Robson, another young player on loan from Sunderland. Obviously had Elliot Embleton last season, and he was great. This guy seems just as two-footed and exciting, and cut in really well and finished with aplomb. And a game which, I think Grimsby probably will say they deserved to pick up the points. Macclesfield's, their form's been a bit poor recently. They haven't won, I think, is it in 6 now? 5 or 6, yeah. I mean,
last win was against Scunthorpe 6 games ago.
Yeah, so they're just starting to struggle a little bit. But let's be honest, I found a stat midweek, which was that they've got the youngest average age of squad in the Football League this season. Really, so that just shows you how well they've done to do what they have at the early part of the season, even though they lost Sol Campbell.
I'm slightly surprised as well, because a couple of weeks ago I saw them play Crawley and I thought they looked really quite good. And at the time I think that was 7th versus 8th, so it's a bit of a surprise to see them drop like this.
Yeah. I mean, they've drawn 3 of those, so it's not all bad, but a little bit concerning. Luke, your hot tip in pre-season was that Swindon would get automatic promotion. They're not far off it, but your boys are just keeping them out of the top 3 as it stands. But a 1-0 win at Cambridge, and again, a fairly important 3 points on the road for the Robins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think midweek was a big shock to everyone to see Colchester take them apart. It was certainly out of character the way Swindon have been this season. But despite Cambridge's recent revival, especially away from home, they're a lot better away from home than they are at the Abbey. It was a good return to form for Swindon, and something that I don't think many people would have doubted after an off day on Tuesday night. I mean, I've said it time and time again. I think Isgrove leads the charts for assists, or he's certainly up there. But they've got League One quality in the front part of the team, and they're a lot better at the back than they were last season. They had a few capitulations last season as well, and a really solid win with Jerry Yates getting the goal. I mean, like I've said, I can't trying to think in their sort of front line. There you got Doyle, got Yates, you've obviously got Isgrove. Anderson's sometimes he's a bit up and down, but for me, there's 3 of 4 players there that are League One players.
Got Woolery as well, who looks good when he plays as well.
Woolery's probably the quickest player in the league when he gets going. So you've got that sort of quality in there as well. It's been a really, really solid start, and I think purely because of that, the rest of their team's done well, but that attacking sort of potency they have is why they're doing so well, and why they'll inevitably, as I've said, finish in that sort of top, certainly playoffs for me. Really, really good result, and well fought to come back. They're a big club in this division, well supported, and as I say, I think they'll do well.
Yeah, Zeki Friars came in and did well at centre-back given Baldry's injury in midweek, and I was wondering who they'd play there. So Zeki Friars coming in and keeping a clean sheet on the road, that's a decent effort. But Luke, Cheltenham, tell us about it. I mean, you're winning away from home now. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good because that's 4 wins in a week, and I can't remember the last time we achieved that in the Football League. It's been quite some time. Really good, really good feel around the place, and I think, speaking with someone who sort of works in the offices at the club, is that everyone's very much firm feet on the ground, and it's certainly down at the training ground as well. There's no sort of getting ahead of themselves. Everyone's just focusing on the job at hand, focusing on the next game, and you got to stay grounded. We've only played 10 matches, but it's been a really good start. We're kind of in uncharted territory, and funnily enough, when I look through the stats in the division, we're the top scoring team in League Two. Which is, when you look at the sort of expected goals, etc., and you look across the stats, we're not anywhere really near in that sense. We're very clinical, which is great to see. And yesterday, there was a lot of Plymouth pressure, but the defence have been superb. There's been some sort of worries about our midfield without Rowan Ince. He's had rotten luck coming back into the team. He's yet to really...
I think, is it Connor Thomas? He's looked really good when he's played, as has Chris Clements, especially at home. I mean...
Absolutely. Last season, there were times with those two in midfield, certainly away from home, we were sort of beaten too easily, almost, you could say. Though they have been brilliant this season. Jake Doyle-Hayes has brought that energy from Aston Villa. Ryan Broom is an absolute gem of a player for us. He's been really good. His energy, I'd be surprised if he didn't cover the most distance in the division, or certainly up there. He's so good at that, and deserved another goal yesterday, or deflected goal. But the defensive solidity as well, Michael's it's clearly been working on that. The confidence there. You've got a 19-year-old centre-back who I think will be playing Championship football within the next couple of seasons with his parent club Hull. Jacob Greaves, Will Boyle's
I was going to say Jacob Greaves. I mean, Will Boyle coming back now, but Jacob Greaves,
he's not going to get out that team at this rate, is he?
No, he's been brilliant.
But Ben Toes has been fantastic in that sweeper role, almost, and Charlie Raglan as well, who's someone you'll know from Oxford. But Sean Long, right wing back. I mean, Chris Hussey, we know his quality at this level, but Sean Long has been superb. He's so strong. He doesn't get beaten very often, despite.
He's actually quite good going forward, though, isn't he? I've watched him.
Yeah.
He can get past the guy quite well.
He can. It's that little flick, burst, and cross into the box. And he got another assist for Luke Varney yesterday. Really good player for us, Sean Long. And yeah, but brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Delighted with the start to the season. But as I say, let's not get carried away. Let's just focus on next week. We got Crewe coming to the Johnny Rock Stadium. Should be a great game, a great atmosphere. I think Gabe Sutton's coming to that one, so it'd be good to catch up with him. And hopefully, it should be a fantastic game. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be a really interesting match. I think you could beat them as well, because you play that kind of solid football that they might find difficult to play against. We'll see.
Yeah, well, as you said, there's a lot of goals at Cheltenham this season, and certainly with Crewe's attacking potency, it could be a real ding-dong of a game. So I would certainly recommend anyone who lives close to Gloucestershire to come and watch that, because it's sure to be a cracker.
Yeah, it will be good. Forest Green, they drew 0-0. They've struggled to score goals this season, but they're very solid at the back. Stevenage will take that as a good away point, I think, before the match. And I know they still haven't won a game, but that's a small step forward going there and getting a decent point after back-to-back defeats. So keep an eye on how they're doing. Walsall beat Scunthorpe by 1-0 in what was not a classic, but again, important result for Walsall given the fact that they have struggled so much. 2 wins on the bounce, both 1-0. They're not going to be a team that scores many goals, we know that, but if they can eke out some results at this moment when they've been under a bit of pressure, that'll be huge. And Bradford beat Carlisle 3-1. Important result for Bradford. Ishmael, a player who flatters to deceive, he came on, got a goal. I'd like to see a bit more of him. I think he could be quite an exciting player for the Bantams. Both received red cards in this game, and Nathan Ridley, I saw some of his tweets, our Carlisle correspondent, wasn't particularly enamoured with the referee's performance. But there you go, it's another, they've done okay on the road last couple of weeks, Carlisle, so, but I wasn't surprised to see them struggle there. And Bradford up to 6th now, so maybe Bowyer has finally settled on a team. I think for me he was changing it too much at the start of the campaign, but he seems to have settled on a formation now. Obviously with Vaughan and Donaldson up front, they've got some experience, players that will score goals in this division, and they're doing fine. And Chris, finally then to Oldham, another manager. An interesting Friday night, 16 minutes between the dismissal of Laurent Benide and the appointment of Dino Maamria.
Is it Thursday night or Friday night? I can't remember now.
I'm pretty sure it's Friday night.
It might have been. I think it was Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Because they're training on Friday.
There you go, Thursday night. So, it's another change. But actually, it seems like a sensible one in some ways. But also it does then highlight the Benide experiment was a bit silly, really.
No, never. Things are never silly at Oldham. To quote Peter Taylor, I want off this carousel that is Oldham. I think it's a good managerial appointment. I was a fan of Dino at Stevenage, especially last season. I think he's a fantastic presence to have around the club. He was coming out, he was getting the fans going yesterday, came around applauding the fans after the game, which we've lacked with Benide. He's I think I referred to him as a Monsieur Stale this morning.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have much character about him. I thought he might have a bit tactically, and I think we were starting to see better performances. One thing that I find really quite poor from the club actually is that they let him do the pre-match press conference on Thursday morning, let him take training the entire day, then sacked him and appointed Maamria, who we apparently tried to sign in the summer. So we've obviously brought in Benide. Maamria's become free, and we've jumped at it, which I think's a bit off. But fantastic performance, I thought yesterday it was a lot better than we've seen in recent weeks. Not always working, but there was a clear nod to a change of system. The only real poor performer in that team I thought was Jackett. There was a real attacking intent from them. We still sat back at 2-0, and Morecambe did get a goal as a result, and the entire stadium just went, oh, it's happening again.
Yeah.
But we did still push on and get another goal. Good to see Smith get on the score sheet. He looks like quite a bright talent. I think he was on loan at Tranmere last season. So it's promising. There's still rumours that the sporting director tried to come into the changing room at half-time or full-time. The sporting director being Mohammed Lemsagam, the owner's brother. And Maamria told him to do one. And if I was Mohammed, I wouldn't be messing with Dino.
No. I think I would just. I mean, if this is true, and we don't know if it is,
it is a rumour. I must stress, yeah.
But if it is true, just pack it in. Let the manager get on with being a manager, and leave that side of things alone. You don't see it happening at other clubs, and there's a good reason it doesn't happen at other clubs, because it doesn't work. It undermines what the manager's trying to do, and it just doesn't create a good atmosphere. So yeah.
And the interesting thing is we didn't see Seffel or Vera anywhere near the first team yesterday. They weren't even on the bench.
I think Vera was injured, which is a fortunate piece of news for Oldham fans. Seffel being out just is common sense, because he's not a good footballer.
He wasn't good enough at tier 6, so...
You'll do a lot better under Dino, I'm sure.
I think so. And the real good thing is that he's a character. We need someone there to give us a bit of character, because we've just lacked that entirely.
It's been bland, hasn't it? Like, the atmosphere's been bland and at times apathetic. It's not been a place that's enjoyable to watch football. You get the fact with Dino that he'll come in and he'll really give everyone that lift, because his personality is such a strong one. I
enjoyed it yesterday. For the first time this season, I actually enjoyed watching us play. We were rough around the edges, but the football was generally positive, and the crowd was getting going. And to see a manager come out and he's throwing his arms up to try and get the fans going at the start of the game. I love to see it. I think most fans do.
Morecambe, long season for them. In the games
poor.
I've seen them, yeah, they're poor. I do worry about them defensively. They concede too many goals far too easily.
They were on the back foot the entire game. The defence was leaky. The only real creative outlet they had up front was Alessandra. Leach Smith did a bit when he came on, but he didn't start. There was no one in the side that particularly impressed me, and it's poor. They were just poor.
Yeah, they've not been good in the games I've seen them either, to be completely honest. So, but there we go. Episode 100 done and dusted, and in League 2, as we end episode 100, you've got Exeter, Crewe, and Cheltenham Town sitting in the top 3. As it stands, with Swindon, Forest Green, Bradford and Newport. South West team's doing really well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and Crawley 8th, Grimsby 9th, Colchester 10th. There's some going to be a really good competitive edge to this division this season. Stevenage and Scunthorpe in the bottom 2 places as it stands. Morecambe just outside, and I don't believe they'll stay there for long based on the way they've been playing recently either. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed all 100 before it as well, actually. But, great that you've supported us. Great that you've continued to listen and give us your feedback. Everyone who interacts with us makes it worthwhile. Big thank you to Luke, who started it all off with me. It's been great having you on the show again today, mate.
No, really enjoyed it, James. Especially I know I haven't been on that much over the last few months, but the journey that the podcast has been on, and certainly D3D4 Football, I think I speak for everyone in sort of the lower league community to say thank you for doing this. And it's great how it's grown, and it's created such a nice community certainly on social media as well, where we can all share our views and talk about the divisions we love. So yeah, I just want to say thank you from me, and yeah, absolutely. And to Chris as well, who's done a fantastic job as your co-host.
Yeah, well, I was about to come to you, Chris, of course. You've taken the mantle that Luke put there so well and continued it brilliantly. So well done to you as well, mate. Thank you for coming on. And let's hope Oldham have a far more settled the rest of the season at least.
Yes, fingers crossed. I echo exactly what Luke said. It's been fabulous to be a part of. It's been fabulous to see lower league football get a real voice. and it's been an honour to follow in Luke's footsteps.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. And if anyone out there does want to sponsor us and help us just continue to take this onto the next level, we are open to it. We'd love to hear from you. But to all our patrons as well, thank you so much for your support, because it just makes it possible for us to continue this week in, week out. And that ends another pod. So thank you so much for everyone who has listened to this. I hope you enjoyed the football. No Tuesday night action this week in the league for us, which is a bit of a break, which is nice. And hope you enjoy your weeks ahead, guys. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.